The Iran conflict is now producing some of the most dangerously mixed signals we've seen from any American administration in decades. Missiles are still flying over the Persian Gulf, oil has crashed back through $100 a barrel, and the White House can't seem to agree with itself on whether a deal is coming or whether the war is still on. This week also saw the extraordinary spectacle of the U.S. Department of Energy triumphantly announcing it had secured enriched uranium, not from Iran, which holds 408 kilograms of the stuff, but from a reactor in Caracas, Venezuela, 13.5 kilograms. Meanwhile, a tanker seizure in the Gulf of Oman shows Iran's shadow network is still very much operational. Joining me now are Marcus Webb, our defense and security analyst, and Layla Nazari, our Middle East analyst. Marcus, let me start with you. Is this White House in control of this conflict, or are they improvising at $100 a barrel?
Thanks, Emma. Look, let's be honest about what we're watching here. The Trump administration launched into this conflict with genuine military force. That part was real, that part was serious. But what we're seeing now is the strategic phase, and the strategic phase is a mess. You cannot simultaneously have Marco Rubio announcing you're waiting for Iranian responses through diplomatic channels and continue trading missile fire in the Persian Gulf. Those two postures are fundamentally contradictory. Douglas Murray has been absolutely right on this for years. The West keeps making the mistake of oscillating between aggression and appeasement without ever settling on a doctrine. And right now, Washington is doing both at the same time, which is arguably worse than either. The Venezuela uranium stunt tells you everything. The administration needed a win, any win, so they grabbed 13.5 kilograms from Caracas, while Iran sits on 408 kilograms and laughs. Iran's leadership reads that as weakness dressed up as strength. And the trajectory here suggests Tehran will keep probing until they find the breaking point. The Strait of Hormuz doesn't reopen through wishful press conferences.
But Marcus, here's the counter-argument. Trump did strike Iran harder than any previous president dared. Isn't some ambiguity in negotiations actually a feature, not a bug? The madman theory of negotiation has worked before. And Layla, what's your take on this?
Well, look, Marcus is right that the mixed signals are a problem, but I think he's underselling the economic leverage dimension here, which is where I part ways with the pure military strength framing. Here's what I think Marcus is missing. Iran's shadow fleet seizure of the Ocean Khoi is not just a military story, it's a sanctions story. And it tells us the sanctions architecture is crumbling from the inside out. Iran is now seizing its own sanctioned tankers because the shadow network has become so convoluted that even Tehran can't track who's carrying what. That's a sign of pressure, real pressure. The Financial Times poll showing 58% of Americans dissatisfied with Trump's handling should be a wake call not to escalate further militarily, but to press harder economically. Oil above $100 hurts Iran's buyers, China, India, Turkey, and it hurts them just as much as it hurts us. If you structurally enforce secondary sanctions on every nation purchasing Iranian crude, you don't need to fire another missile.
I hear what Layla is saying, but with respect, that misses the point entirely. We have been sanctioning Iran for 20 years. 20 years of sanctions, and they have 408 kilograms of highly enriched uranium. They have ballistic missiles that can reach U.S. assets across the Persian Gulf. They have a shadow fleet that apparently even they can't fully control, but which keeps moving their oil regardless. The idea that tightening sanctions is the answer at this stage is like recommending a diet to someone who's already in cardiac arrest. The time for sanctions as a primary tool was before Iran reached this level of nuclear capability. National Review is right to question whether the intelligence on Iran's capabilities is credible, and if those capabilities are being underestimated, then the economic approach Layla is advocating is dangerously insufficient. You don't deter a near-nuclear state with tariffs and secondary sanctions. You deter it with credible, overwhelming force and the political will to use it.
Here's what I want to know, and this is the question that keeps me up at night. If Iran calls Trump's bluff, and the ceasefire collapses completely, does America have the political stomach for what comes next? Layla, where do you see this going?
The way I see this playing out, the next 30 days are genuinely decisive. Iran's response to Rubio's diplomatic channel will tell us everything. If Tehran sends back a maximalist position, full sanctions relief, guaranteed non-interference, Trump faces an impossible choice. He can't accept those terms without appearing to have lost, and he can't reject them without re-escalating into a conflict where 58% of his own voters are already dissatisfied. If current trends continue, I think you see a de facto frozen conflict, ongoing low-level exchanges in the Persian Gulf, oil stubbornly above $90 to $100, and both sides telling their domestic audiences they won. That's not victory. That's exhaustion dressed up as statesmanship.
Here's what concerns me most, and this is the scenario nobody in Washington wants to say out loud. The intelligence on Iran's nuclear capabilities is being questioned right now for a reason. If those assessments are wrong in the optimistic direction, if Iran is closer to a deployable nuclear device than the current picture suggests, then every week this conflict drags on without resolution is a week Iran uses to protect and advance that program. History tells us that nuclear thresholds, once crossed, cannot be uncrossed. The real risk here is not that Trump escalates, it's that he negotiates a deal, declares victory, withdraws pressure, and 18 months from now, we discover Iran used the diplomatic window to complete what they started. That is the nightmare scenario. And the mixed signals coming out of this White House right now are making that scenario more likely, not less.
Marcus Webb, Layla Nazari, genuinely illuminating, genuinely alarming. When the best-case scenario is a frozen conflict and the worst case involves a nuclear threshold, you have to wonder whether anyone in Washington fully understands what game they're actually playing, because Tehran certainly does.